Hello, my name is Mike Pfaff, and this is my YouTube channel, Living in the Illusion. Now, the last video that I made, we talked about our pain, where pain comes from, and in that discussion, the conclusion was pain, all pain, is an interpretation in the mind. So this time we're going to expand on that and cover some ground that we went through before and see if we can tie together the pain that we interpret in the mind and mental health as related to cause and effect. Now, if you're familiar with Hermetic principles, the 7 laws of the universe, then you are aware that cause and effect is a law of the universe. It's the 6th law. And what it basically says, for every action, there is a reaction. For every cause, there is an effect. If you have an effect, you must have a cause. So this, a lot of times, isn't related to mental health. But we're going to see if we can tie the two together a little bit. So we have to develop a model. And since what we call symptoms, mental health symptoms, are basically an effect. It's an effect of what's going on inside of us. And so we see the effects on the outside. It expresses itself in behavior in a lot of different ways. So if we were to take an example, and we use anxiety a lot because it's got a lot of things we can talk about. So if we use anxiety as a model for our exercise in cause and effect, let's just see where that takes us. Now, if you have anxiety, you can't have anxiety unless you have certain symptoms. You have to have so many symptoms that when you put them together, they basically say, well, you got anxiety. So if we were to look at some of those, they would be like feeling you are on edge. The sense that you're on edge. Something's going to happen. You got to look around. You got to be careful. And out of that comes a sense of doom and gloom. There's a couple of the things that would come up. So these would be, these are effects of some cause. Interesting. Now, there are other things too, like it can affect your sleep, racing thoughts. That's another common symptom. So we got 3 symptoms here. We'll just use those as a model, and you can pick other ones out too. But that's usually what happens, and it affects your life. It affects how you see things. It affects how you interface with people. There's all kinds of stuff that will be affected. Oh, see, effects, cause and effect. But most of the time, this is where we're at. And they will cause pain and suffering. So now from the last, and I'll put a indicator up here of the last video around, I think it was called Ouch, That Hurts. And it recognizes that pain, the determination of pain, is an internal process, happens in your mind as an interpretation based upon your past. Not thought about that way too much. So if you go to a therapist or a psychologist or psychiatrist, you go with certain effects. And the effects will tell him, because he's got a big book. It's like a magic book. And he goes through your symptoms, and when you have enough symptoms, he can diagnose you with a mental health problem. If you don't have enough symptoms, you don't have a mental health problem. So, in anxiety, I forget what the magic book said, how many you needed. But we'll just play with these three. Make sure we got three here. 1, 2, 3. And we might add to that, but that'll give us a start. Now, if you go to most mental health professionals, they, with anxiety, because, you know, anxiety starts off as worrying about things. Oh, what's going to happen? I wonder what's going to happen. It's about what's going to happen in the future, usually in the pretty current future, but you could worry about things that are going to happen when you retire, or you can worry about things anytime. So the next step up, because they're like levels. Worry is kind of right next to normal. So then you have worry. Then you have anxiety. You know, that's where you get these kind of things. And you start changing your behavior. And therefore, we call this anxiety. So your effects or symptoms are related to what we call anxiety. I'll put a square around it. But know that these symptoms are effects of something. Now, so you have these symptoms. What will the mental health expert do? Usually, the first thing, they'll try to moderate the symptoms. They can do that through behavioral modification, through cognitive therapy, through medication. All of those are meant to moderate the symptoms, because when the number of symptoms go down that are affecting you, at a certain point they say, well, you have too few symptoms, can't diagnose you as anxiety or depression or ADD or whatever the mental health issue is. So you need to have some symptoms or effects. Now, and that's how mental health is. So when these go away, you don't have a problem. So now, cause and effect. There is a cause associated with whatever symptoms or effects you have. You can't have these without having a cause. Now, you knew that. You probably knew that. That's kind of, it's not rocket science. It's something that you could come up on your own. Say, okay, now I have these. Now, if you have cause and effect, see, the cause affects, the effects flow out of the cause. So if you change the cause, now I'll use another term. If you heal the cause, make peace with the cause, what happens to the symptoms? An interesting question. So what happens with the symptoms when this isn't there? There are no symptoms. If there's no cause or it's healed, you can't have symptoms. They're hooked together. These two are hooked together. Now, in the mental health field, we moderate these through medication, behavior techniques, through cognitive work, all kinds of stuff. Then we moderate these. We never get rid of this with the techniques that we're using. Normal therapy. So these can be diminished, some of them quite quickly, by medication. You stop taking the medication, these come back. Why? You didn't heal this. So when you stop taking what moderates the effects, the symptoms, and you haven't healed this, well, this comes back. These symptoms will come back. That's why with anxiety, particularly if you're taking something like Xanax or something like that that says as required, well, you're going to have a lot of as required. Because these are, as soon as you stop, whoop, you'll feel them again. And you feel them in the body, and you say, well, now I said you feel them in the body. Now, the last video talks about that these are interpretations in the mind. And then the mind, conscious mind, projects them onto your world, onto the body. And so you believe that you're suffering, because this is suffering, and sometimes it's pain, but most of the time it's suffering. This comes from your interpretation of your past. Your past determines your present. Now, what is the cause? Well, that can be pretty problematic to find it easily. Sometimes it's known, and it's known to the person who has the anxiety, but they don't know how to get rid of it. Sometimes they don't know, or they've disconnected the effect from the cause. And therefore they've separated, and now they look at these and they say, well, I don't know where these come from. I was out cutting grass, and I just all of a sudden had this awful dread that the lawnmower was going to stop running, and it cost me a lot of money to fix it. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. Well, I had racing thoughts. What if I win the lottery and they don't pay me? Or What if I lose my job? Or my girlfriend's going away? Or, all kinds of stuff. So then you have racing thoughts. What's the cause? Now, here's another thing about cause and effect. You can't have an effect before the cause. You can't have an effect. You can't have these symptoms before the cause. Now, what is this? This is a problem. This is a causal problem. Causal problem. Okay? You can't have a causal problem that generates these effects before you have the effects. So the cause has to come first. It's kind of one directional. Sometimes I think about going back in time travel. And they say, well, time can go forward, time can go backward. Cause and effect only goes one way. I don't know about time travel, but cause and effect only goes one way. You got to have the cause first. Now, a lot of people that you talk to in therapy, okay, they come in and they tell you, well, I got these symptoms, and one of the questions you ask, along with a whole bunch of other stuff about family of origin and your problems now and all kinds of stuff, is when did you first recognize the symptoms or the effects? And they say, whatever they say. Well, it started in college. I was worried about tests or something. Or it started in high school when the girlfriend I had broke up with me. But most of them, a lot of them will say, I never remember not having some part of this in my life. Now, if we recognize that the cause must be there, the causal problem that generates these must be there before the effects. Now we have a time frame. You say, well, you've always had this in your life? Well, yeah, a great part of it. Because how are we going to heal this then? What is the problem? It's a law of the universe. Cause and effect. The cause is always connected to the effect. Now, if you had these symptoms or similar ones, and we could add to it, you had these similar ones, okay, and you had them for a long time, all you can remember is having them. Where do you think the causal problem is? Wherever the child was raised. Well, what do we call that? Family of origin. So the causal problem comes out of before you have the symptoms or the effects. So if you've always had these effects, and now you can talk about other mental health issues, PTSD, chronic pain. Chronic pain, remember, pain is an interpretation in the mind. We think of physical pain, you take a look at that other video and recognize the body responds to the mind. There is a lot of information that says the only psychotherapy is a true therapy. Why? Because only the mind can be sick, and therefore only the mind needs to be healed. Now, so what causes this problem? Your past. What's in your past? Memories, experiences. And now, in the past, you have some memory and experience that is generating these effects. It's all memories. It's all carrying negative memories. So if you want to get rid of these, now you can moderate them by behavior, changing your behavior, external behavior. But recognize when you're changing external behavior, you're changing, again, another effect, and you're not dealing with the cause. Going to be a problem. And will it change? Yeah, it's like losing, well, a lot of times this is related to not anxiety, but sometimes we have emotional eating. So the eating is the effect. The cause is what generates the emotional eating. And it'll be something in the past. See, the effect is in the present, the cause is in the past. That's why it's one way. You got to have the cause before you can have an effect. But you have to heal the cause. And what is the cause? The problem, it's going to be memories. Of the past. It's going to be something that you have interpreted. Now, when I talk like this, a lot of people say, well, you're blaming my parents, you're blaming my culture, you're blaming my ethnic background, or whatever it is. I said, no, I'm not. Because it's you. It's your interpretation. See, interpretation is, you're doing it on the inside. You are interpreting what is happening to you certain ways. And those ways aren't supportive. So you have a causal problem that is generated from your memories of the past that you're still holding on to in the present moment. Now, you moderate these by, changing behavior, losing weight. Weight's a big one for this process, not just anxiety. Now, the thing is, unless you change this, unless you heal this, and only you can do that. Why? You're not a kid anymore. It's all your problem. Nobody else's. It's your problem. So now you have a causal problem created from memories of the past, and you got to forgive yourself. Now that's unusual, because you say, well, it came out of my family of origin, I should forgive them. Now, you don't have to. You have to forgive yourself and change you. You know why? You can't change them. You know why? You don't believe that they have a problem. You're the one with the problem. You're the one with the effect. So you're the one that has to change. Interesting. Now, that's why we moderate these many times through medication, through behavioral modification, through cognitive work. You gain insight and you see this differently. And you will moderate the effects. You didn't heal them. As soon as you stop the diet, the modification of your behavior, your habitual self, which this is, will step out of the shadows, and there you'll be until you heal this, until you have some insight in this. So, cause and effect is a law of the universe. You will have effects. Now, if you look at it as a stream of cause and effects, this will turn out to be a cause of something in the future. Maybe illness, maybe other things. Fibromyalgia is an interesting one to work with. So this all happens. Now, why do you have this out of the family of origin? Because it is an effect of your family, of your major caregivers. Why? Because there was a cause in their family. It all goes downhill. You just happen to be where you're at. So, mental health. If you want to change your mental health, if you want to enjoy life, if you want to be happy about you, and you have some effects, you got to change the cause. The cause are memories of the past. Past experiences have caused these to generate out of the cause. How do you change memories? How do you change your past? Well, some people will say, well, I use forgiveness. I'm forgiving them. I'm forgiving those people. Unless you start with yourself and begin to know you, it's going to be problematic. So how do you change memories? There are many techniques. They won't be medications. Medications won't change your memories. They'll moderate the symptoms, but it won't change your memories. You got to use different techniques. Fortunately, there are a lot of new techniques that are coming out under the general heading, and it's all a lot of woo-woo stuff, general heading of energy psychology. And there's a lot of stuff going on. You can look that up on the internet and find, and we'll talk about it here. So next time we get together, we're going to expand again on our understanding of who we are and how we can change and feel good about us. Oh, by the way, part of that is loving yourself. Now, how do you do that? Well, we'll talk about it. Next time we get together, be good to yourself, and we will see you next time.